So we have the full text for the Israel-Gaza ceasefire agreement. The ceasefire agreement that doesn't start until Sunday, which Israel has took full advantage of, killing, at time of recording, at least 80 Palestinians in airstrikes mere hours after the ceasefire agreement was announced, and also they are already trying to back out of Netanyahu making up something saying Hamas is reneging on ideas of part of the agreement when they have no evidence for this. Clearly, Israel is now having second thoughts about agreeing to this, so we will have to wait. So it's a 3-stage process. We'll go through the original text and we'll go to some of the changes and appendages they added as of January. So the first stage is the most detailed stage. It's 42 days. So it is still a temporary cessation of fighting. So this isn't a permanent end to fighting. And also this I don't like. Temporary cessation of all aviation, military and surveillance in the Gaza Strip for 10 hours daily and for 12 hours daily on days in which detainees and prisoners are exchanged, which means Israel is still going to be able to, probably bomb Gaza if they see fit for 10 to 12 hours a day. I don't think that's changed in the updated version of this, so the January signing. I don't believe that's the case. I believe it is still the 10 to 12 hours a day they will be able to kill Palestinians. Well, it's even more than that, isn't it? It's 12 to 14 hours a day. Return of internally displaced to the places of residence and withdrawal from the Philadelphia corridor. So Philadelphia corridor is the one to the south that borders with Egypt, the one that Israel took with tanks, if you remember. So that's kind of covering a lot of this. Day 22, Israeli forces to withdraw from central Gaza Strip, but then that withdrawal still means they're going to be in areas around Gaza, I believe. And apparently aid is meant to start flowing in on day 1, 600 trucks of aid daily, 500 trucks of fuel, 300 of which to the north, so 50 trucks of fuel, so half of the trucks will go to the north of Gaza where they are experiencing a famine, man-made famine, by the way. So then kind of the details about the prisoners. This is something I think the general news media is really harping on about because it's a way for them to center Israelis in all of this. So 32 detainees that are women and children and the elderly. Hamas will then release all living Israeli civilian women in exchange for Israel releasing 30 children and women for each Israeli that was released. So basically, Israel views one Israeli to be 30 Palestinians. Kind of tells you a lot about the way they were acting over the past year and a half. But 30 Palestinians being free from being kidnapped by Israel is great. We need to remember Israel kidnaps Palestinians regularly, holds them with no charges, administrative detention. So it's good to see the Palestinian hostages, that's what they are, being freed from Israel. And then I think soldiers apparently are worth 50 to them. Female soldiers are worth 50, apparently. Oh, I don't know. I'm just glad Palestinians are being let go. So, yeah, and then this is more information about the sort of the releases. Then apparently Israel is meant to release all prisoners from Shalit Dal that were redetained. So people they let go and then took back again, because that's what Israel does. They let Palestinians go and then they kidnap them again, and it's a cycle. And yeah, so they kind of go into a lot of detail about the hostage exchanges. And then I think by day 16, they need to come back together and discuss the release of the male prisoners and male soldiers. Well, prisoners, the Israelis that are in Gaza. And then, apparently stuff like infrastructure being fixed and UNRWA being allowed in is all conditional as well, to this stuff to do with the detainees, as they're referring to them as. And apparently they need to basically say all wounded military personnel need to cross the Rafah crossing to receive military treatment. I don't know why Israeli soldiers can't just get out straight away. Doesn't make sense. Just keep him out, kick him out straight away. The number of travellers sick and wounded through the Rafah crossing will also be increased. Restrictions on travel will be removed, and movement in goods and trade will return from the first day of the stage. Will it? I don't know. I don't trust Israel to do this. The necessary arrangements and planning shall be initiated for the comprehensive reconstruction of homes, civil facilities, and infrastructure destroyed by war, as well as the compensation of those affected under the supervision of a number of countries and organizations, including Egypt, Qatar, and the United States. This, they go into more detail in the January part of this, so the January version. It's going to take decades for them to recover. Not a couple of years, which I think here in the third stage of the original one was like, oh yeah, take them for 3 to 5 years. No, it's going to take decades for them to even get back to where they were prior to Israel's onslaught on Gaza. So then the second stage is announced restoration of a sustainable calm, cessation of military operations and hostilities permanently, and its commencement prior to the exchange of detainees and prisoners between the two sides. All remaining Israeli detainees who are living men, civilians and soldiers, in exchange for a number of prisoners in Israeli jails and detention centres to be agreed upon. I think, again, in the January version, this has more detail. And the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip. So the first 42 days, they're going to get out of like the key civilian hubs, but hopefully in the second stage they will be completely out, and by completely out they're going to be on the outskirts. And then the third stage is just another 42 days. The exchange of all human remains between the two sides are located and identified. Israel steals dead bodies. As I mentioned before, the reconstruction should start beginning, and the ending the full blockade on the Gaza Strip, including opening the border crossings, especially Rafah crossing, facilitating movement of people and transfer of goods, and providing electricity around the clock in all areas of the Gaza Strip. Provide electricity around the clock in all areas of the Gaza Strip. I do not believe, one, is the infrastructure even still there for that? How are they going to ensure there are generators to ensure that? Two, Israel controls electricity and water into the Gaza Strip. They historically they've been cutting it off whenever they wanted to, both electricity and water. The Palestinians go days without clean water or fresh water, at the very least, apart from their one desalination station, which I'm pretty sure Israel at the very least used as a base, if not probably wrecked. So even if this were true, were they? And still Israel still controls what goes in and out of Gaza, so ending the full blockade will not prevent Israel from preventing things like medication or even like school equipment or reconstruction stuff going in. They've been doing that for decades anyway. I'm pretty sure you can't even take like colouring pencils or crayons into Gaza as per Israeli rules. So I don't even trust this point. But let's go look at the slightly more updated version from January. So basically the updated version from January is the same stuff, but they've kind of like appendicized stuff on to make things more clear. So stage 2 preparations, they didn't really change anything here, but basically it's reaffirming everything in stage 1 has to be met for stage 2 to commence. Here's where they go into more detail about the forces being withdrawn. So, withdrawal of Israeli forces eastwards from densely populated areas along the border of the Gaza Strip, including Wadi Gaza. So, I don't know. Just the densely populated areas along the border. The Israeli forces will deploy a perimeter 700 meters with an exception at 5 localized points to be increased no more than 400 additional meters that the Israeli side will determine south and west of the border and based on maps agreed upon by both sides. So basically, they're going to have a buffer force around Gaza, basically so they can reinvade whenever they want to, which is, even if we get past the 42 days or whatever 42 times 3 is. Here is slightly more information on the prisoner exchange. So, Israel will release 1,000 Gazan detainees from the 8th of October that were not involved in the 7th of October. So, this is basically Israel saying, we just kidnapped 1,000 people. We just have kept them locked up for 15 months. I mean, Israel does that regularly. So, this is just more details about the prisoner exchanges, kind of including elderly men and their worth compared to Palestinians, I guess, which is the Israeli side. Philadelphia corridor. This is the south of Gaza. The Israeli side will gradually reduce the forces in the corridor area during stage 1 based on the accompanying maps and agreements. After the last hostage release of stage 1 on day 42, the Israeli forces will begin their withdrawal and complete it no later than day 50. Do not believe them. People will return to where their homes once were because they want to. They miss their homes. They may have loved ones buried under the rubble. But Israel has destroyed everything there. Israeli forces will redeploy around the Rafah crossing according to the attached maps. 50 wounded military individuals will be allowed to cross daily, accompanied by 3 individuals. Each individual crossing will require Israeli and Egyptian approval. Don't like that. Require Israeli and Egyptian approval. The crossing will operate based on August 2024 discussion with Egypt. I'm not 100% sure on this point. And let's go. Exit of ill and wounded civilians. All ill and wounded Palestinian civilians will be allowed to cross via Rafah border crossing according to Section 12 of the 27 May 2024 agreement. The return of unarmed, internally displaced, the Netzrazim corridor, which I think is further south than the Rafah crossing. The return is agreed based on, that's just reaffirming some of the stuff from the last one. On day 7, the internally displaced pedestrians will be allowed to return north without carrying arms and without inspection via Rashid Street. On day 22, they will be allowed to return to the north from Saladin Street as well without inspection. So, after a week, people can start going back north, but also, again, this without inspection thing, I just don't believe the Israelis when it comes to this. Who knows? Maybe people can, but also having only one, then 2 ways of going north is also sus. Israel likes to corral Palestinians before killing them. On day 7, vehicles and any non-pedestrian traffic will be allowed to return north of the Netzrazim corridor after vehicle inspection, which will be performed by a private company, which will be determined by the mediators in sync with the Israeli side based on the agreement on agreed upon mechanism. Again, if this is going to be anything like the checkpoints they have in the West Bank, this is going to be devastating for Palestinians and dehumanizing. And the final thing is, humanitarian aid procedures under the agreement will be done subject to the humanitarian protocol agreed upon by the supervision of mediators. This is just I don't know, if the US is still anti-UNRWA, they might try and make this US aid being the ones doing this. This will come when it comes to that. But yeah, that is the agreement for the ceasefire. Again, Israel is still trying to back out of this, I think. You know, all the goodwill they were trying to get from the Trump campaign through this, I don't know. Maybe they had talks with Trump afterwards and Trump was like, oh, actually, I don't give a shit. Which is why they are now trying to make up rubbish. Also, anything, I think especially this part, I'm worried if you think about the shock doctrine, where something as devastating as what's happened to the Palestinian people in Gaza, I'm worried this stuff, and there's something here about the private company. This is a lot of neoliberal company. Well, neoliberals are going to try and make money off the suffering of Palestinian people and their return. So, let's watch out for that. But yeah, we'll have to see if the Israelis even sign this. I don't know. It's nearly Friday morning. It's Friday morning as of me recording this, and there is no sign of Israel signing thus far. They've got until Sunday basically, and I don't know if they're going to renege or not. Are they going to push until Trump comes into power? I don't know. Which is the Monday the 20th. But I just am worried there's a lot of loopholes for Israel here. All of this stuff is conditional on other things that Israel has overview and oversight and deciding if they have been met. So I don't know. Hope for the best. I don't trust Israel in doing this, but you can see the joy Palestinians feel. I hope they get to keep experiencing that joy, and as always, like I've been saying, allow the Palestinians to have their joy and give them the grace, but we keep working, we keep putting in the work to help them achieve their liberation. At the end of the day, the Palestinian people are the people who will achieve liberation, and it's our role as people outside of Palestine to help them get to that point.